you can use it as an exercise and just do it like that. So you're just going to create your own playlists using this idea of a bell curve and then the beats per minute. So there are beats per minute, there's beats per minute software out there. How accurate do you find it to be? Have you used any of the beats per minute software?
No.
They're not very accurate a lot of times.
Like Record Box or something like that.
Which one?
Record Box.
Okay.
And you can just put the tracks in it and you can also modify the BPMs.
The BPM, yeah. So there's software like Rekordbox or other DJ, any kind of DJ software can also be used to analyze beats per minute. I personally find it to be accurate. It's kind of like when Siri is listening to your voice. Sometimes it's accurate and sometimes I find that it's not. It depends on the song. Also if it's a remix or if it's an original. Because some of the original songs I find they were recorded in analog and they weren't digitized with a proper encoding to actually read beats per minute. It actually takes the ear to read it. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And I think I'm gonna go through that that order backwards. So I think I'm gonna start with music, rhythm, discussion, and then move through voice from there, and then go up. Because when we're doing the actually anatomical incorrect poses, and for those of you, if you're going to be practicing at home, this will make sense because usually after class we've all eaten, so I don't want us to be doing any physical stuff for at least an hour, hour and a half from the time we eat. Okay, so what are beats per minute? Or Stephanie will tell you. Do you have your do you have SoundCloud on your phone?
Yeah, but
You
I
do?
have no connection.
So on as far as on beats per minute, we can. Do you have music on your phone?
On my iTunes.
Oh, you have some on your iTunes? Okay, so we're gonna listen to a little bit of music, and we can pull from that. So beats per minute are basically if you took an average minute, 60 seconds, and let's say, so here the dominant beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. About 100, would you say? Or would you say this? A bit less, maybe 90, somewhere around there. It doesn't have to be exact, but the idea is if it's, and then let's choose, can I just forward through? Okay, so let's choose another one.
It's a set.
Oh, I could forward, okay. So let's forward through. 1, 2, 3, 4, slightly slower. 85, 80, somewhere around there. You'll get a feel for it too, and it doesn't have to be identical. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be close for the outline. So I'll give you guys, well, it's funny, they're all so far, very close to each other.
Same tempo. Very mellow.
Yeah. So did you mix this one? So she mixes these. Samsara. She's known as Samsara globally on SoundCloud. She doesn't boast about it, but she's very well known amongst the Swiss party crowd.
Super cool.
So, are you guys having any questions on how you find which beat to count to?
I guess I'm having a hard
hear
time. How you quickly are able to tell how many. Like I can identify the beat, but
without doing the whole song. You're saying without counting the whole
That's
song.
385.
Oh,
Right.
I don't know.
It's a
that
feel. It's a feel. When you do it enough, you will start to get that feeling. But the other thing I wanted to share about that is, it doesn't have to be that accurate, but you can actually, like, what you could do is you could there's a really easy analog way to do this, is set a metronome that's going to 60 beats. You can download an app on your phone. This is how I developed the ear for it. Because beats per minute in my music, the music I play, I didn't learn this as a kid. Beats per minute I actually used only for yoga, to put playlists together and to teach use it as a tool to actually convey the message. In the same way that you might be able to listen to music and appreciate music, but in order to teach it, you might have to actually write it. You might have to share somebody else's ability to then play your music. You might have to write music. So in the same way with beats per minute, what I find is I like to use it as a teaching method and a formula to give you an idea of what it is. But like,
But a whole song, like, is it always the same beat, like rhythm, or it changes?
Depends on the song.
Oh.
Depends.
So you can't not just listen, let's say 10 seconds, count the beats, and then make a time.
Assume that it's all. Never make that mistake. Listen to at least all the sections of the song. You can forward through songs, but it's a mistake to think that the opening is anything close, especially with down tempo or actually with like deep house. Have you noticed? Deep house,
Starts usually slow.
they even sometimes play tracks under the beat that are from a different album altogether. And they don't even, the track, there's a word for it, I forget what it's called. But like they play like How Deep Is Your Love under a completely, like, you know that Bee Gees song? How deep is your love? That, you know. Anyway, that really slow one? Okay, so they play a really slow song and the beats don't even match up to the actual song that is actually playing. So you have to be very careful with certain genre of music. Versus like house or acid house, sometimes the beat is the same all the way through, isn't it?
It's actually really often, but it's like there's
Yeah.
different tracks going on.
So the right answer is that depends on the genre of music where you're safer. But I always try to listen through all the sections of the song before I put it in. Because you might put it in and it starts off like all dreamy and oh, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then like a minute into the song, somebody will say, no, drop the beat. And you're like in the middle of stretching, you know. So that'll happen and you're like, damn, what did I do? You know, and you gotta run over to your machine and be like, turn it down really fast. So
Idea to find several songs that have sort of an average BPM to then turn into a playlist
for yoga. So no, the idea, the first, I think that this should be treated as sort of two parts in this particular one. Is one, to acclimate yourself to what beats per minute actually are. And one of the ways to do that is if you go on YouTube and you type in BPM, and like you can actually find songs that are known, documented to whatever their beats per minute are. So you kind of you cycle through the songs that are, let's say, 100 BPM, and then do a little bit of that kind of research. And we're going to do a little bit of this together, actually. But so let's go through some others. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like 50? 50 or 40? What do you think? What do you think? Of course not. Well, he'll go away soon. 1, 2, 40, maybe 40. What do you think? Faster? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you're putting the and in. You're going 1 and 2. Oh, okay.
In the middle, like.
But without mixing it, it's less than 1 per second. So 60 per second. So before mixing, 45. Yeah, I would say 40 or 45. Now, so the way that I learned beats per minute was, number one, I went onto YouTube and I would just type in 80 beats per minute song, and then it'll come up. And then pretty much, like, for instance, like electronica house, or like acid house is usually over 100, right? When you say, yeah. So if you type in, for instance, so write it down, acid house, right? So just write that as a note, and then listen to some acid house. It'll start making sense. Like, you'll start seeing, it'll be like, you know, techno, right? So that double time, right? It's hitting at twice the speed of 60 seconds, right? 60 seconds per minute. So whatever that is. So if you know, let's say acid house, we know is, and a lot of times music is classified, like, even do a wiki and read up on, for instance, the genre of a music is often defined by its beats per minute range. Okay? So for instance, down tempo often isn't above 110, right? Wouldn't you say? It's like, I have a DJ in the house here. So so usually the genre will be defined by its beats per minute.
sense.
Now, that's not, because, for instance, there's slow jazz, and then there's like fast jazz, like Benny Goodman, for instance, right? So it's not 100%, you know, of a way to define music, because music is, like we were talking about earlier, music is a very vast art form, and because it's art, so there's a lot of variance in different genres. But there are some general ideas about what genre will have faster beats per minute. For instance, 1980s punk rock is going to have beats per minute upwards of 140 to 200 beats per minute.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, like,
What's your SoundCloud?
so let me see if I can find, okay, I'm going to pause this for a second.